What's that?
We need to interrupt your regularly scheduled off the beaten path to kind of let you know what's going to be ahead for you during this episode. And Mr. Maddox, in the case of us three, he's the expert and we are the rookies, we're the novices. So he's going to treat us like we are 6th, 7th, and 8th grade students, and maybe even like 2 and 3-year-olds.
So today we're going live to flush a couple of cows. And you're at home thinking about flushing the toilet. Nothing like that, although it does involve some liquid and the movement of liquid. So what we are actually doing is we are taking superior cows and we're trying to maximize their genetic footprint. We're taking females that have proven to be good producers. They produce offspring that have added value, and we are asking them to produce more eggs, and we are helping fertilize those, and then we're going to put those into surrogate mothers. And this allows us to have multiple calves out of one cow in a given year.
So as we go through this, Mr. Maddox is going to talk us through certain parts to help us understand it and to help you better understand it. Back to the show. All right, Mr. Maddox, why are we standing next to your favorite child?
This is Redbird, and what we're doing is we're flushing. We're doing some embryo transfer on this cow, and what we're hoping to do is we're hoping to maximize her genetic potential. We're asking her to produce more eggs than normal. The eggs were fertilized a week ago, and we're removing them from this cow, and we're going to freeze them, which they will stay good indefinitely until we choose to put them in a surrogate mother.
So what do you mean by surrogate mothers?
Okay, so one cow can only carry one calf per year. It takes her about 9 months, 283 days for her to develop that from conception to delivery. And so that really limits how many offspring a cow can have. So what we will do is we will take embryos from the cow that we're flushing, and we will put them into other females in the herd so that all of those females can have calves out of your superstar.
So Redbird back here,
Yep.
we will take those, freeze them, and then when we're ready, we'll stick them into
These other cows.
up here.
Yep, absolutely.
That's what I want.
Surrogate.
So next spring we'll line up a set of recipient cows, and we'll put some of these eggs in, hoping for lots of Redbird progeny.
I've got a question. Who's this gentleman?
This is Dr. Todd Van Dyke, Van Dyke Embryo Transfer Services. He's located in Sandy Lake, PA. And how long have you been doing this?
40 years.
He said 20 years. Actually, Dr. Todd and I go back a long way. He's been helping us out with our endeavors for quite some time, and he's almost like part of the family now. So.
The black sheep. Yeah, I graduated from vet school in 1980 and spent 2 years in Virginia at Bullstead and did embryo transfer work. And then I moved to North Dakota and set up a Bullstead and was out there for a year and have been going back and forth ever since. So I spend probably about 2 months a year in North Dakota, a week at a time. And the other 10 months I work around the 150-mile radius of Sandy Lake, which is western New York, eastern Ohio, and western Pennsylvania. And my brother can't understand why I went to college for 4 years to stick my hand up a cow's butt all day long. But I really enjoy it because I get to meet people like Ryan and Adam and Josh, and it's a lot of fun.
And you'll see them on videos. Well, not Josh, but you'll see all the different parts and pieces that make this process up. So buckle up, kids. There's Opal. Oh, coming over. Want to say hi? Clara, should I be afraid of cows?
No, they're harmless creatures, and because they don't hurt you, they just get scared and accidentally hurt.
Oh, you are absolutely adorable. Hold on a second, Mr. Man. Let me start that over. Mr. Maddox,
Yes.
what is this contraption?
This is a chute, is what we call it. So you may be familiar with chute from a number of scenarios, like bull riders. They'll load the bulls in the chutes before letting them go. Most cattle operations will have a working chute, which is heavier duty with like full sides. This is what we call a grooming chute, where it's pretty open, pretty accessible. These bars are able to come out. You can reorient them. Allows you access to the animal, but still kind of keeps them restrained, keeps them from moving side to side. We want the female to be fairly still and placid as we do this procedure, and so this will help us keep her under control. So,
Cut you right out.
So what Dr. Van Dyke is doing is he's cleaning off this area, getting ready to give the cow an epidural. He's going to lift her tail a little bit and find the inner discal space. Put that needle in. Now he's going to inject some lidocaine. Lidocaine in, and it's going to stop her peristaltic movements. in her
Peristaltic
digestive-
movements. I'll put that in the.
That's the pushing of the rectum. What's that? Yeah. Yeah. Loving up. Loving up.
We can manipulate the uterus through the rectal wall. That's why we gave her a spinal, so that she's not trying to push me out the whole time I'm in it. This is a filter. It's 75 microns, and the embryos are 100 microns. So everything we need will be right in here. 100 microns is basically the size of a grain of salt. And we have a catheter. I don't know if you'll be able to see it or not. Well, let's pull it out. It'll be a lot easier to see. It has a balloon. I can fill that through the rectal wall, and I seal off the uterine horn, and we run fluid from the bag, as normal saline, from the bag into her uterus. Then I switch my snaps and run it through the filter. And we run about a pint of fluid through each horn, and hopefully that gives us all the kids that she has.
Meanwhile, you're manipulating the ovaries.
Well, we'll check the ovaries. For every egg she has a CL, so we can get a guess on how many embryos she should have in there by the number of CLs that she has on the ovaries. At this point in time, they're the size of maybe a pea and the size of your thumb. So it's sort of like trying to count grapes on a cluster of grapes to see how many kids she has. So we give her a little. This is a tranquilizer called acechromazine, and yeah, it's a real good smooth muscle relaxer so that the uterus doesn't get a lot of tone, so that we can get all the kids washed out of it.
Just happened.
Every year when I go to the fair and I see city kids come and want to pet cows, I get the same feeling that I just did with these guys. This is normal everyday life for me, and I wanna smack them because they're just ignorant city folk. And it's a good thing you're on the other side of the screen, because anyway. So let me explain what's going on here. Dr. Van Dyke is, he's got his right arm gloved up and inserted into the cow's rectum. That's part of her digestive tract. That's where the poop comes out of. And the reason he's doing this is because it lies just above the reproductive tract. And it's pretty durable. It's pretty, it's very hard to damage. And so he's able to feel the reproductive tract and manipulate it because it lies just below the rectum. So he's got one hand in there, and then the other hand is going to be free, and he's going to insert some things into the reproductive tract to go ahead and extract those embryos.
It's cleaning out the rectum. It makes it easier to feel what's happening just beneath the rectum, the reproductive tract.
If the rectum's full, it's almost like trying to palpate through a balloon that's full of air. But once you get everything out, you get a lot more, it's a lot easier to palpate things. And she has 6 to 8 on the right and 8 to 10 kids on the left. So,
Right, Mr. Maddox, he just said 6 to 8 on one side and 8 to 10 on the other. What is he talking about? 6 to 8 what? 8 to 10, right?
Okay. So what he's actually palpating or feeling are the ovaries. And so there's 2 ovaries, right and left, and he's giving us an estimate, essentially, of how many embryos we should find.
we should give us that
As long as you breed it out
15 to 20 embryos. Put a little lube on that so that it slides a little easier.
So I see a long rod, called it a catheter.
Correct.
What is he going to do with that?
So he's going to insert that into the reproductive tract, and he's going to actually do it twice. Once he's going to go into the left uterine horn, which leads to the ovary, and then he'll seal it off, flush out that ovary, extract the embryos off of that side, and then he'll repeat the process for the right-hand side.
So flushing, he's going to put liquid in there and then like push those eggs out.
Yeah, so he'll seal it off when he blows up the catheter. It'll lock into place, and then you'll see he's got a bag of IV fluid that will gravity feed into the cow, into the ovary, and as long as there's forward pressure pushing that fluid in, he'll fill that ovary and the uterine horn with fluid, and then when he stops that flow and opens a release, that will backflow out of the ovary into his filter.
Bringing the eggs with it, and then the
Hopefully.
filter keeps the eggs up top.
Yep.
The fluid goes below.
Yep, hopefully.
So we go through the cervix into the uterine horn. The uterine horn is like ram's horns. Each horn is individual, and they're about a foot to 16 inches long.
All right. So I wanted to give you kind of a clearer picture of what's happening inside the cow, things that you see. So I'm going to start here. This is a dorsal view, and so we're kind of like looking down. The cow's back would be here, and then her butt. So you're kind of over top of the cow, and you're looking down. This is the external opening to the reproductive tract, and he's going to insert the catheter in here. That's the easy part. The cervix here is actually, he's going to have a hold of that and manipulate that. It feels a bit like a soft screwdriver handle when you're feeling it, and he's got to kind of maneuver it through. There's some rings in there, but he's actually going to put it up in here into the uterine horn. This is the uterine horn, and then the ovaries here, and so he's going to flush this and then backflow it out, and then he'll come back in and put it over here.
if we had a cross section of the cow, it would look a little bit like this. So here is the technician's arm going in, and this is a pretty tall cow for me. I might need a stool. He's grabbing the cervix right there, and then with the other hand, he's able to manipulate his catheter to get it through. He's actually going to go through the cervix and over into the uterine horn.
So we go up one horn. I normally start in the left horn because it's easier for me to work the left horn. And then once we get done with the left horn, we'll come out and go back in the right one. Okay, I need someone to plug me in.
Ladies and gentlemen, that was Mr. Maddox's brother right there. There he is.
Mr. Maddox.
Mr. Maddox, yeah.
And the rest of the process is sort of like watching grass grow. You can see the air bubbles running down the tube. And we run about, like I said, a pint through each side, and hopefully there's no way to know whether we got them all or not. We just have to look underneath the microscope and grab them.
How long does it take? Will that whole bag go in?
Yeah, it takes about 20 minutes.
I don't know if my arms can hold up that long. So it looks like the hard work, the manual labor part of this is done. And now Dr. Todd set up his microscope. What's he looking for here?
So he is set up, and he's put most of that fluid into a larger Petri dish, and he's going to put that underneath his stereo microscope, and he's going to sort through that entire dish looking for the embryos, which are, like he said, about the grain of salt. So they're relatively small. The fluid is mostly clear, but there's a little bit of mucus and bubbles, and so he'll actually go through that once or twice and then set it off to the side, and he'll come back to it after maybe some of the eggs have settled. And you talk a little bit about depth of field when you're in a microscope. Maybe you got a protist that's near the surface, it may not be in view, but if it moves down lower, it comes into view. He wants those eggs to have a chance to settle, make sure that he finds every single one of them.
Mr. Maddox, what were you saying about practical use of microscope?
Oh yeah, so all of you kids who are in 6th grade and wondering, when am I ever going to use this? There's a very, very small percentage that you might grow up and be an embryologist like Mr. or Dr. Todd Van Dyke, and utilize it every single day. But there are other fields that utilize microscopes on a daily basis, especially now with COVID and whatnot going on. There's a lot of people in laboratories doing microscope work.
Do you want to see a kid?
Yeah.
It's not good, but it's a kid.
It's a bad one?
I think it's unfertilized.
Is that the first one?
Yeah.
So this is what he's doing.
So when you say you're looking at a kid, you're looking at.
And it was 7-day-old embryo. Yeah, see right there, that's got a shell around it, and you can see the debris on the inside.
Todd? So then,
So when I think about science, I think about cool stuff like this.
very cold.
What is going on with this? He said it was liquid nitrogen. What's going on with this?
I don't know. I'm just joking, everybody. So in this tank, this is a semen tank. There's nothing in it right now other than liquid nitrogen. Liquid nitrogen is what we use to cool and keep frozen semen and embryos, that sort of thing. So this apparatus right here actually has an inner container filled with denatured alcohol, 100% alcohol, and then he's filling the outer jacket with liquid nitrogen, He's got a tube running through there that aerates and circulates the denatured alcohol, and he has a cooling rate device. He's got a thermometer that measures how quickly that inner container cools. And so he'll actually start the embryos off at a kind of a warmer temperature, which is the freezing point of water, and then he's going to lower it at a 0.5 degree per minute all the way down to the temperature of liquid nitrogen, at which point he'll just go ahead and put them right in the nitrogen, where we'll package them for storage forever. So then he bought a couple other animals off me, but the most notable one is Opal, who we're flushing today. Also a rooster.
7-day-old kid.
7-day-old kid.
Then you can see it's starting to clear. This would be called a compact morula, and that's starting to clear. The clear part is actually the placenta, how the calf attaches to the uterus. So that's a little earlier. That's like a quarter blast.
Okay.
All right, so that's gonna kind of bring us to the end of this little journey we went on. I've got to say, we try and bring you things that you normally may not see. This city boy certainly has not seen this.
Nope.
City girl.
Nope.
So
I did not.
this was kind of a really neat experience for me to see something that normally I don't get to see, but this is Mr. Maddox's every day. All right, Mr. Maddox, what else can we wrap this up with?
What else do we need to know about this entire process as a whole, since we only saw, one section of it, the flushing of the cow?
Yeah, I think the main thing is that this is an application of science in the real world. A lot of chemistry, a lot of physics, a lot of biology happening here, and those courses of study allow you to do things like this. And so my hope is that I take these embryos that we produced today, and we can put those in and have lots of redbird babies, and that's going to have an economic impact on my farming business. And so this is just a small, narrow segment of the technologies out there for livestock genetics. So typically in a normal year, I oftentimes get taken off the beaten path by students. Mr. White likes to tell kids, hey, if you ever want to avoid a test in Mr. Maddox's room, just get them talking about cows. So here we are not taking a test, and we're talking about cows. A way that I would typically relate this to students so that they better understand this process and why, the why of it. Imagine that you had superior human beings like Thor or Black Widow from the Marvel movies. Let's just assume that they pass their superpowers on to their offspring, and so we want lots of children who are going to use their superpowers for good, but it's only possible for the Black Widow to have one child per year. That really limits how many offspring, how many superheroes we can create. So through the process of embryo transfer and flushing, it's possible to produce lots of offspring of Thor and Black Widow, if that were a thing.
Should be, if it isn't.
We could take over the world for good. So